My job is to somehow make them curious enough or persuade them by hook or crook to get more aware of themselves and where they came from and what they are into and what is already there, and just to bring it out. This is what compels me to compel them, and I will do it by whatever means necessary.
Welcome to the Awesome Black Dad Show, where our goal is to educate, inspire, and encourage dads to become the best version of themselves. Today, we talk to Roy Walker III about getting back to you. We talk extensively about how important it is to take time to focus on who you are and showing up as that person consistently in the lives of the people you love the most. Roy currently serves as the Dean of Health Sciences at Malcolm X College, and he is recognized in his community for his expertise in clinical exercise physiology and wellness programming, and is very passionate about equity and access to education. Without further ado, let's chop it up. Welcome to the Awesome Black Dad studio, man. Well, i.e. the basement.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, pretty much, man. First of all, I want to congratulate you on finishing your recent triathlon.
Oh,
but
thanks.
we definitely gonna get into that because I watch them, but I definitely won't won't participate. But I'd like to hear the journey as a part of that.
Sure. That was a reprise of the old Roy.
For sure. So what I'd like to do is get into who is Roy?
Well, Roy is a man first and foremost. He's a husband. He's a father. He's an educator. He's a professional. He's a consummate gentleman. And I wouldn't say community activist, but I definitely say he's one that is definitely a community member, active member in the community. As I've gotten older in age, I've realized that some of the social issues that we face, things that aren't going to resolve itself unless we get active and get engaged. So I'm very ingrained in our community and trying to do anything I can to make it better.
Okay. So what are you doing like in the community currently? Like you feel like?
Well, right now, in my role as dean at Malcolm X College, a lot of my job is to get opportunities for employment for our citizens. And so for me, what that means is really making sure people are fully aware and abreast of what opportunities are in front of them. That while they endeavor to achieve, that comes some responsibility and some hard work in doing so.
Yeah.
But more or less by really making sure you're exposed to all opportunities that are there and not just read what's in front of your face or what you see in the TV. Really kind of doing your own research. I think what comes along with that is also financial literacy. And so one of the things, as I was telling you earlier this morning, we have a stock investment club meeting later on today that I got to do my stock update for, but really teaching our youth how to really understand finances and economics and not to be so much consumers, but to either be producers or employers themselves. And so I think that's what we're going to need to figure out how to do is really how to get our community engaged to stop some of the madness that we see going on and really do more activities that uplift and build us.
Yes. We have these conversations all the time about how hard or some of the education when it comes to financial literacy, right? And how do you begin to change our community, right? And so since you're kind of boots on the ground, like what is the hardest thing, and you're in the field of education, right? So what is the hardest thing to kind of begin to break the chain, so to speak, and break that cycle, right?
Well, I think one of the hardest things is people got to understand the dynamics of poverty, okay? And generational poverty at that. Things aren't really easily resolved overnight. And one of the things that we have to do is for people who are in the know, and I guess I consider myself to be in the know, you got to find ways to kind of get involved with the community so that those who don't have a father or a male figure in their life, that they see that these things can be done, that they can be attained. What does become challenging with that is obviously our bandwidth. We only have 24 hours in a day, and I need to rest and relax on top of my work, my regular job, and be a father to my family.
Right.
But the bandwidth becomes an issue. So then it becomes, are you able to help individuals one by one, or can you help masses? And that requires a lot of organization and getting a good team and getting people involved, because nothing can be done by one person. You have to really be able to galvanize a team around a group effort and have concrete goals, concrete solutions, and really be able to get everyone fully on board.
Yeah. No, I understand how that can be a challenge. So let's move on to from our community to your everyday challenge,
Sure.
your kids. Right?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
How many kids do you have, actually?
So I have 3. I have a 19-year-old right now that's in college. She's at Hampton University. We had the HBCU Classic yesterday, so Hampton won. So now I can say I'm a Hampton dad, so I got to represent Hampton.
Okay.
And then I have a 8-year-old, soon to be 9, daughter, as well as a 7-year-old son.
Right.
They're in 2nd and 3rd grade
Right.
now.
So a father of 3.
Mm-hmm. Yes, father of 3.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Bless you. You win.
1 out the house and 2 still in.
Oh,
Got
man.
a little ways to go.
Right. So tell me, the first is always, I don't want to say the most challenging, right? But in terms of that new thing, tell me about how you felt when you found out you were having your first child.
Well, so there's no shame in this now, but my first child I did have out of wedlock, and it was with someone who wouldn't necessarily have a long-term relationship with. In fact, it was quite short-term.
Now, how old were you?
I was 24 at the time
Okay.
she was pregnant.
Okay, so that isn't really that. I would think you wouldn't say that that's relatively young in these days, but it's still depending on what you got going on. So,
Yeah. Well, I was young in mind for sure. By no means was I ready to be a father, nor was I prepared, nor did I want to be a father at that time. And it took me a while to really kind of accept that responsibility, and I would just be forthright with that. At that time, I did not know the legal ramifications around being a parent. Of course, watching TV and media, I can only think about half my stuff. So I was afraid that somebody was after me for all, everything
Right.
that I own in the rest of my life.
yeah.
And so I had a lot of fears around that. Then also, at the time I was actually about to start graduate school. So I didn't really make a lot of money. Wasn't really, on my career path per se,
Yeah.
because I was still, going to school. So I wasn't really sure how to take that on. And I'll be honest, it took some divine intervention, I feel, on my part, where I was able to be saved by what I consider a mentor now, my guardian angel, to make me realize that this was really more of a blessing as opposed to a burden. But when you're young, you don't have any money, and then you having a baby with somebody who you don't even know that well.
Yeah.
And also, not to mention the distance factor, because at this time, I was living in DC and I
Right.
was going to Atlanta. So to even be there on a day by day, all I could focus on was what I was not going to be able to do, what I was
Right.
not going to have. So that was really, really hard lesson for me to learn. But to be quite honest with you, her name is Kayla. I credit my daughter right now to she's the one that made me into a man. Because when I went to go visit her, she had just been born maybe 2 months, and she had her in Milwaukee while I was living in Atlanta. I came up there, and before I crossed the threshold, her mom approached me and said, "Listen, I know you're having a hard time dealing with this, but I don't want to cause you any stress, any strain whatsoever." She said, "So, if you want to be a father, you can be a father, and of course that does mean providing something, but really more important means being in her life. And if you don't have to. And the only thing I'm just going to ask is you to sign your rights away." I didn't even know that's something you could do at
Right.
that time. That, what do you mean sign your rights away? You mean I can walk away from this thing scot-free and
Right.
be done? I was like, oh no, I didn't even consider that the entire time. And so I'm
Wait. So let me get this straight. She wasn't. Well, contrary to popular belief in today's times, right? It's always about the bag when it comes to these kids. When you look at celebrities and how things go on social media, it's like you hear all these horror stories about people getting together and having kids, and then it's like, all right, well, I need you to pay this money, right? And so
Right.
what she's doing is giving you an option to be like, all right, you can
Right.
absolutely walk away and clean the slate and not even act,
Right.
we never met.
Right, just be gone.
Right.
And honestly, I told her, I was like, can I think about that? And because I was, to be honest with her, like I never considered it.
Right.
She's okay, no, fine, just get back with me. And then at that point, I went in and met my daughter for the very first time. I held her and I started crying like a baby right away.
Now, is that the moment you felt like, because you mentioned, and I'd like you to go into a little bit more detail, but you mentioned that you credit your daughter with making you a man, right? Is that the moment in which you started that journey, or is that the moment where you felt like, all right?
I like to think so,
Mhm.
but I will honestly give credit more towards what happened shortly after that, because
Okay.
then, I had to go back to Atlanta, and then she's in Milwaukee,
Right.
and I had to deal with my decision about what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Right. Because at the time I didn't say, okay, now I'm ready to do it. No, it was not that easy.
Right.
You know, I lamented a lot about what I should do. And is at that time that my mentor and I were making me kind of, help me to really think about this a bit differently and see it more of a blessing as more of a burden. I think the issue with me was that there was no way I know I could live with myself knowing that I had a child in this world and had no knowledge or nothing to do with it whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was really worried about the lack of time that I was going to have, because I knew that I was going to miss the first day that she walked, first day she talked, first tooth coming out, it was hard for me to kind of accept those type of things, those first that I wanted to have for a child. And realize that, while those things might be important, that's still just my ego kind of making importance of them.
Yeah.
What's most important is the totality of time you have with your child, and is that time meaningful?
Mm-hmm.
So when I did call her back and tell her I'm not gonna sign my rights away, I'm gonna be her dad.
Right.
That's when I want to say that's the point that I started becoming a man. And I left Atlanta, came to Chicago to get closer to her.
Okay.
Started having frequent visits with her. And then, of course, her mom moved up on me with the DC. Talking about a brother that was upset. And I don't know if this is a G-rated show or not.
Hey, man. Your platform.
I can tell you how mad as hell I was, dude.
Absolutely.
I was like, are you kidding me?
Right.
But even that still worked itself out. And, where I was seeing her every other weekend, then turned into, much less frequent than that. But then when she eventually ended up moving to Mississippi, I started getting her every summer.
Okay.
So I had her for every summer since she's about 5 years old.
Okay.
And it's been cool.
Okay.
It's been real cool. I mean, me and my daughter have a really, really good relationship. She still misses her dad sometimes in college right now. It's the hard times, but hey, girl, look, them the breaks.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When I was 19 in school too,
Right.
I had to man up. So in this case, you got to woman up, but I got your back.
Right.
But there's some things you got to learn and figure out for yourself. But she's doing good. She's doing really good.
Nice. So you talked a little bit about like there's obviously a gap there in terms of the time when you told politically correct term, your baby's mother,
Mm-hmm.
your
mother of my child.
Thank you.
Her name is Stephanie. We can call her Stephanie.
Yeah, okay, that's better.
Yeah.
We'll call her Stephanie because that's her name. But
Yep.
So you tell her and say, I need some time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you make a decision. So that window, you mentioned that you had some conversation with like a mentor, right? So I want you to talk a little bit about like, because I believe that having mentors is really, really important, right? But we don't talk about it enough, and we don't know how to get
right.
We really don't know what that means, right? At least in my community, in our community, where we just kind of put our head down and try to get be as successful as we can as we move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So talk a little bit about how your mentor kind of stepped in that gap and helped you make a solid decision.
Sure. So it's interesting because you got to remember at that time I was in a really, really negative place. Right. I mean, you talking about somebody who was in turmoil. And on top of that, I had just got this girlfriend who I was really in love with. I thought that she was like the one for me. And
then you were I'm sorry to cut you off, and I hate when people do it, but I did want to mention you were on your way to grad school. And
I was in grad school at this point.
And you were going to grad school for
exercise physiology at Georgia State in Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah. So my mind was in a really bad place about a lot of different things. He got me to realize that I wasn't really loving myself, and allowing my mind to get into this really, really bad place was not really choosing love, right? And I think in most things that happen, like there's this dichotomy. You can see the good in it, you can see the bad in it. And for some reason, I was consistently choosing to see the bad in everything, and wasn't even considering the flip side of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with looking at some biblical scriptures, reading books like The Course in Miracles, and just our conversations. And it's really our conversations because, sometimes when you start reading the Bible, you can kind of get caught up in dogma. And I wasn't even trying to do that.
Right.
I realized that I was deserving of love, right?
You were?
I was.
Okay.
I was deserving of love. And because I am deserving of love, then there's no reason for me to be happy and to choose abundance. But that was an active choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't quite realize that that's not what I was choosing at the time. And knowing how to protect your mind and knowing how to protect your soul is of paramount importance, I think, to us as men. And we don't oftentimes know how to do that because, we get caught up with this whole notion that we have responsibility. And not to say that we don't, because we do have responsibility. But choosing to be her father was a selfish choice for myself, because I knew that I had to love me And the only way I could love me was by loving her as well. So if I walked away from her, that in fact was going to be a clear example of me hating myself and being negative to me, because how could I be proud of someone that chose to not be a part? There's no pride, there's no honor in that whatsoever. And if I love me, then I gotta stand by my name in everything that I do.
Right.
And that was something that I knew that I would have none but shame doing something like that. So it's really like a selfish choice for me, because I do love myself. I was like, well, in the hell, I'm going to not have somebody in this child in this world, me not have anything to do with it, because no, I don't want anybody to say anything like that about me.
Right.
If that makes any sense. Like,
it does. Like I've never heard it articulated in that way. And the first thing that kind of comes to mind is, where does that kind of reasoning come from, right? Especially at 24, 25, right? Because, at that age, we kind of, we footloose and fancy, right? We moving around.
So this is where the whole the spiritual piece kind of kicks in for me, because I also had to kind of deal with my understanding of God and what it meant for Him to give us unyielding love, right? And so, whether you be a Christian, Judaism, doesn't really matter, but I choose to believe in Christianity, and the whole notion that God gave His Son to save us. When I broke that down, I had to think about it. Would I sacrifice my own child for anybody in this world? Never. And so for someone to kind of have that type of love really humbled me and realized, if He has that love and can love me like that, who am I not to love myself? Right? It's almost like I consider it to be a sin not to love yourself.
Right.
And so when it kind of hit me with that, I got humbled, because if you really think about trying to lose your child for somebody else, and for people who forsake you, people who don't believe in you, it's like, damn,
right?
That's deep.
Yeah,
that's real deep. So
the interesting thing though is that the thought of connecting your child to you, and I don't know if that's really a selfish thing, right? I think you being it's actually you finding out that how to love yourself is a residual effect of you accepting the responsibility of your actions at that particular point in time, which goes back, and it becomes circular, which goes back to the point in which how having your first child and that whole kind of situation got you to where you are or where you needed to be, right? So that's so when you think about the whole, and I'll say myth, right, about absent Black father, doesn't mean that dads are out here not taking care of their responsibility, right? But the ones that aren't, like, if they had an idea about what love really, really looked like and what love really felt like, and I think we'd have less of that, right? In terms of actually putting words to it. And that's what you're doing now, at least for me, right? You're creating a bridge between, if I stay, even if it's hard, even if I have no idea what type of dad I'm going to be, how I'm going to do this, how I'm going to maintain this financially, what I need to stop. I'm going to stop what I am doing and take care of my responsibility. And ultimately it builds that bridge to love. And it's like, we don't have that. You don't have that language.
Right. And you know what's crazy about that too is that, and I think when you kind of realize that, then more blessings just open up and come to you. You know what I mean? That, like, things just kind of open up, and next thing you know, you're kind of doing really, really, really well.
Yeah, like your two other kids.
My two other kids, right. Right, two other kids. Well, but then also I started a business about my own condo, so things just started kind of working well for me when I just had to change my mindset a little bit. But yeah, it's interesting, because one thing I also realized is that when you do take on more blessings, also you kind of have, indirectly or directly take on more responsibility, and more comes to you. Right. And the thing you got to remember though is that, and I do believe this truly, God does not put anything on you can't handle. Yeah. And so I've been really blessed, and I've been really fortunate.
Yeah. So far. I would beg to differ a little bit, because if I had another one,
right. It forces you to stretch, though. It forces you to stretch.
I'm already stretched too far.
Go and have another one, man.
No. Me and the doctor had an appointment, and we talked about it, and I think I think we straight. Hopefully, but
right.
Yeah, no, it's too much. I mean, in terms of just talking about, I mean, it takes a lot, right?
Yeah.
It just takes a lot out of you mentally, physically, and we'll get into a lot of that in terms of how you spend your time mentally and physically staying in shape so that you can be what you need to be for your kids, right? So I want to definitely get in that because I think you do a great job of that. But before we get there, like talking about having 3 kids, right? You have your first one and then you have 2 more. Like you would think, a regular person would think like, all right, you have your first kid and you kind of go through the motions and you figure some things out about you and your child.
Right.
And you grow. And then you have these 2 and it's like, oh, you got to figure it out, right?
Right.
I know that's not the case, at least for me.
Yeah.
So what has been some of the biggest challenges in terms of having 3 kids and now the difference between like, you have a basically, and I don't know if this is hopefully this isn't like a derogatory term, but a blended family, so to speak, right?
Yep.
And so how have you been able to maintain that and the challenges associated?
So it's interesting. So believe it or not, having the 2 other children, I don't really think it as being that much of a burden anymore. And maybe just because of how, I don't want to say guilt, but just, feeling that I missed out already on my first child, that things I didn't miss out that I know I want to be a part of, that I couldn't be a part of, but I still loved and appreciate all the time that I did have, got me that much more excited with these 2 here that I was prepared for them. Like I could not wait to change diapers, only to learn, okay, I can't wait to this shit is over.
Can't wait till this is over. I don't want to see another diaper.
So I started doing diapers and, watching my children. I mean, and I'm a very, very active, engaged parent, wash, cook, clean, the whole 9. In fact, I would beg to offer that I'm probably the best one in the family to do it. But, I have my own methodology, my own craziness about how I make that happen. But it really hasn't been that difficult. Now, what I will tell you, though, it is difficult is I just need to get me a nanny. It's as simple as that. I need to have me an in-house. I need to have me an in-house support. Well, because the thing is, like right now, my wife and I are both working professionals. Okay, which means our days don't end till 5 o'clock. And our kids, I would like for them to be able to have a good hour of play, chill time, but a good 2 hours to be able to do homework and read and do whatever they got to do. That also includes, washing themselves, getting fed, and then being able to go to bed each hour because we do believe in an 8 o'clock bedtime. That's rough when you don't get home till 6 o'clock. And homework only increases and grows over time. And we're still trying to adhere to a good night schedule, 8 o'clock. Now, of course, as they get older, we're going to probably bend that back a little bit. But just really having time for them to be able to focus and enrich their mental state about how to handle the rigmarole when school is over. It's something I just missed. I just wish I had more time for. We were spoiled this summer. We did have a somewhat of a nanny that would pick them up from camp and get dinner started and do homework. So by the time we got home by 6:30, we could play. And we can engage in just family conversations. Or better yet, I can go take care of me. Okay, I can do what I had to do. My wife can do what she had to do. So and that includes like working out or maybe going to hang out with some friends or anything. But it's like kind of getting your me back is where I am right now. And so the school year just started and it's getting hard and heavy real fast.
Yeah, I mean, man, there's so many things or questions, and I know we won't have that much time. But like, so the nanny thing, right?
Yes,
it's like a faux pas, right? So when you have conversations with people about the thought of having a nanny, right? And it's like looked at, it's like, how do you have a nanny? Like it's synonymous with like wealth, right? When people think about you having somebody take care of your kids, it's either you got a whole lot of money or it's like, why don't you want to spend more time with your kids? Why do you have to have somebody to do that, right? And I think the reality of it is like, even when we were little, our grandmothers were our nannies. If we're being honest about it, like our parents did the same things to kind of take care of us. Like, I wasn't in summer camp is ridiculous. It's a whole nother conversation financially.
This
like
the X-Men? Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
But we got some hacks, so we found some pretty good camps in summertime. But I don't want to share them because I don't want anybody to take my spot. I don't want any competition.
Fair enough. Keep it to yourself. I won't even ask. It's fine. But no, I think it's really cool, and we probably should have more conversations about the way, like having someone step in the middle so we can create more space and more bandwidth for our families. Because the better we are, the better our families are. And so leading into that, what does it mean for you when we talk about me time, right? What does that mean to you?
Man, listen, so I'm at what we call halftime in life, right? Okay. And so
Is that when you say halftime in life, you mean like age, or you're talking
well,
just like age and other
a metaphor
things?
for life. You know, you
Okay.
figure the average lifespan for black men are typically 83, 86 years old, God willing, right? Although we know a lot of brothers go out sooner than that.
Yeah.
Now I'm in my mid-40s, so I'm at halftime in life, right?
Yeah.
From a lifespan perspective. You look at the first 2 quarters of your life. First quarter, you know, you're a young buck. You know, you're trying to get through school, get educated. Then the second quarter, you know, I've had the kids. I'm kind of got my way professionally. And now third quarter is to get them out the house and then me to go ahead and enjoy happiness the rest of my life, right? So, how do I put this? You know, at this age time, you know, our parents are deteriorating. They're getting a little bit older. You know, my mother I just lost her last year.
Sorry to hear that, man.
And well, thank you. I appreciate it. But you know, that was like a little dark period. You know what I mean? Because for most men, I shouldn't say most, but for many black men especially, you know, their mothers are who they had, who held them down.
Yeah.
And so when that biggest factor in your life is no longer here, I think a lot of us kind of go through a lot of, you know, challenging things. And so for me, that was that period these last 3 years, right?
And so your dad is in your life, right?
My dad is in my life. Yeah,
Right.
but my parents separated when I was 6 years old.
Okay.
5, 6 years old. So my dad's been in my life, but he was not like, you know, day by day type dad. So that's something I kind of learned on my own a little bit, which has been kind of fun and part of the joy as well. You know, I like to look at myself as Roy Walker III, I'm new and improved.
Okay.
And I tell him that all the time, like I'm a better version of you, Pops.
Right. That's the goal, right?
That's the goal, and it should be the goal, you know. And we kind of talk about it and laugh and jest, but yeah, no, I mean, so I'm actively being a father on a day by day basis, and that's fun. But you know, went through that low period where it was dark days, and then you know you figure you got little kids that really aren't really independent. You know, you got the challenges of work, got the challenges of marriage, and everything else on you. You know, I was losing myself in a lot of that. Like taking care of me was getting caught up with trying to take care of everybody else. And then I realized, you know, because I had a health scare last year, like, you know what? If you don't start taking care of yourself, they're going to take you out, right?
Right.
So I had to draw a line in the sand. But listen, and that was everybody. There's Nicole, the kids, the jobs. But listen, guys, this is a new standard for me.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sorry, but maybe I have not been fully authentic about what my needs are, but I'm being fully authentic right now. And I'm so emboldened with it right now because for me, it's like life or death. Either I have this or you don't have me at all. Right.
Right.
And that's a hard pill for people to swallow, you know, but fortunately, again, if you don't speak out on what your needs are, you'll never get it and you'll never address it. And I think that sometimes we just think we can just take on more and more and more, and you will crack. And so I've been blessed that my wife has seemed to stand up and be okay with what I need. My job has certainly, you know, supported that as well. My children, they're going to do what I tell them to do because I'm daddy. You know, and I do realize that.
You're going to fear and respect me.
And there's no questions asked.
Yeah, no questions.
And there's no quivering. You know what I mean? I'm rock solid.
Right.
So, so I had to put it out there and it came back, right? So realizing that it's okay to have, it's okay to want, it's okay to desire, and I don't want to say demand it, but request it for it to come your way.
Right.
So now I get massages once a week. You know,
Hey.
I do. I go see a therapist once a week just to talk about whatever the hell I want to talk about, right? But it's good just to have that time just to be able to bounce anything I want on somebody and kick it off. And then I'm working out. I'm running on an ongoing basis now. Swim, bike, and run. Roy's making it happen. I'm doing things I used to do 10 years ago.
Right.
And hell, I'm in better shape mentally and physically than I was when in my earlier 30s. So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy what's happening right now. Oh, and I'm also you know, taking better care of my body from what I put into it as well, including thoughts, right? News.
Oh
right?
my God, you got to protect your mind.
Food, of course.
Yeah.
You know, I don't drink nearly as much as I used to.
Right.
In fact, I can barely handle alcohol now as it is, and I stopped drinking coffee too, which is also kind of surprising. I never was a big coffee drinker, but during that low period, I was doing coffee to keep me up. And
It just becomes a routine, like habit, and you just like it does. Like for me, it's a routine in the morning because my wife is she's a coffee drinker and her family are coffee drinkers. And I didn't drink coffee until, you know, we met. And then when we met, it was like, all right, what's this coffee thing? It's still nasty.
So you ate that Apple E gave you,
That's another conversation we need to have, man.
And I love Keisha, so I don't want to get upset when you're saying that, but I'm just saying.
Fine. That is absolutely fine. I definitely ate all of that apple, right? So it's, you know, I completely understand. But I think it's very important to be mindful of our, you know, what the intake, right? What we bring in with what we see and what we hear, right?
Yeah.
We have to be conscious of those things and what we eat as well.
Yep.
And it's just hard to make some of those transitions. I think what's cool about what you're doing is that you're intentional about it, right? Which is a problem for men, not just black men. I think that that's men in general, right? I had a conversation with one of my boys one day, and it was like, we always talk about like, yeah, let's meet up and we're gonna do this. And it just kind of never, it never really pans out the way we want it, and we don't really press about it, right? So, but the women, they be like, let's get together, let's go get our nails done, let's go to the movie. I'm not calling my boy and be like, yo, the new Wolverine movie is out, let's go see the movie together. We're not doing that.
Well, see, I put myself around brothers who also work hard and unfortunately are doing things in this world. Again, this thing for me now is like really loving me. Like I love me some me, Terrell, like for real, right? When I was going through my issues about earlier this year, my mentor looked at me, he called me on the phone and we were talking. He said, Roy, when's the last time you looked in the mirror and said you loved yourself and meant it? And that was what I did the first time when I had to take Kayla and accept her to be my child. I had to look in the mirror and say, I love you. You know, mean that? Dude, I've lost all of that. And so now I call the fellas up, we're doing big things. So we going to DC to go to the Bears game, watch the Redskins. I'm going to LA for my birthday. You know what I'm saying? I ain't going to tell you what I'm going to do entirely, but
yeah, you keep that to yourself.
But I'm going to hang out and go to the LA Rams game out there. So, you know, we do a wild man's trip where we're going to, you know, travel to Miami, or we might go to Cuba or something like that. So you got to do those things, you know, and you got to get your camp on board with you taking care of yourself. Otherwise, they don't want you to be taken out. Right? And go to the doctor. Go to the doctor about everything that's going on. Get everything tested, because one thing I do know is prevention, right, is something that we don't really practice. We wait till something happens before we go to the doctor. No, go and get checkups on a regular basis. And if you even think that you're having a bad thought, you're sleeping more than you think that you should. I mean, tell them all those things and they can go ahead and run tests, make sure everything else is okay. Yeah. So if you get the opportunity to get that good insurance, and use it. That's what's taking care of my massages right now, because, you know, stress is a trigger for a lot of issues that I have. So I got to do everything that I can to make sure I don't have stress in my body. Man, that takes care of it. So ain't nothing like getting a massage every week, bro.
Oh, no, I know. I got away from it. So what I was doing, I had tour. I would get them and I really enjoyed them. But then when I tore my first Achilles and then I started going to get like reflexology and I saw like what it was doing for me just mentally and physically, obviously, I was like, I need to start doing this a little bit more just to relieve some tension, just because of the way that I am and my mind works. Like I hold a lot in and I don't necessarily let it all out, and I just let it kind of sit in my mind. And I think that it's gone, but it's not. No. And then so what has happened is the older that I've gotten, I have since I don't play ball anymore, I have less outlets. Okay. Right. And so I don't have a way to get the things that would typically stress me out out of my body. Right. Out of my mind, out of my body. I can't get those. So you can see the differences. The same way physically, like when I used to be able to eat whatever I wanted, right? And then I go to the gym, right? And so the same thing with it is mentally. Like there are certain things that I have to, like even so as an example, the R. Kelly documentary, right? When I watched that, like it literally tore me up for like a week. Like I literally had to shut down.
What do you mean tore you up?
I
knew about watching it, you mean?
No, right. So I knew about all of the things that R. Kelly had been a part of, right? Right. Everybody in Chicago, if you live in Chicago, you know, right? So it wasn't anything new, but seeing it in that form and then looking at the now older women that were still dealing with the trauma, and you thinking about, like, I have nieces. I don't have any daughters, but I have nieces, and it's like somebody was taking their innocence away, and I wasn't oblivious to it. I knew about it, and it was not that I could have done anything about R. Kelly per se, but we all know somebody that mimicked that way of life, and it was normal. So it was like consuming that. I couldn't necessarily manage it the same way I could 10 years ago. I probably would have let it roll off my back, but I don't have the outlets. Okay. And so now I just sat and it festered, and it was just like I can't consume
certain things.
It
bothers you spiritually.
Yes.
I know.
And it's like,
so I can't see any rape scenes on TV or movies at all. I just can't handle them.
It's just
I can't handle them whatsoever. It's like the most cowardice act that anybody can do. And you know, I'm a lover, so I ain't never had any problems with somebody telling me no, they did. That's cool. I could find somebody to say yes. And
I know. I don't get it. I do not understand.
No need to take advantage of anybody like that. But I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So I think what I want to ask is before, because you mentioned the fact that you had a health scare, and that kind of got you back in the loop of taking care of Roy and thinking about me time and all of these things, because you need to be there for your family, which is paramount, right? Because I always joke about life insurance. I'm like, I'm worth more than you did than
Right.
I am alive. We got to change that.
Right.
But what does a person, what does a father or a man do before they have to get to the point they have to sit people at the round table that are in their lives and say, look, here's my line, right? Before I get to the health scare, like how do I begin to like manage or think about those things before it's like, because sometimes not a lot of people get a second chance, right? So you get to that ledge and you don't have the chance to say, all right, I need to change something.
So the thing that I would say is try to have an authentic conversation with yourself. Like you got to be real, like, and sometimes, you know, there's some darkness to that,
right?
Which is okay. Because you know, in order to have light, you got to have dark, right? So you can't sit there and ignore the darkness inside of us. You know, there's this, I used to read this book called The Book of Secrets. It was about tantric philosophy about Osho. And there's things like, you know, you can't separate the man and the animal, right? Because there's an animal inside of every man.
Right.
The thing is, you have to acknowledge that the animal is there.
100% agree. Yeah.
And let him have his outlet, deal with him. But that's because no matter what, that's still part of the man. Right. So you got to have an authentic conversation about what flat out are your needs. What do you want? What is your desire? And do it with yourself first. And then find a way to channel that in an engaging way with the people in your camp.
Yeah.
Right. So they gonna understand that, you know, these are what my needs are.
Right.
And if I don't have it, it's going to deteriorate me internally, in which case you might see that lifespan shorten because that's more stress that we're taking on. I mean, being a black man is already stressed enough as it is. I'm not trying to say that it's more stressful than anybody other group in this world, but you know, but it is. I mean, we look on TV and somebody else getting taken out either through our own accord or the police or whatever. That's still stress. That's still trauma.
Yeah.
And so you got to start realizing this is what I need. You know, I love me some me.
Right.
Okay. Now, if I got this outline about what I need to have, how do you go about getting it?
Yeah.
Okay. And then who do you keep on your team to allow you to get it, and who has to go?
Yeah.
And that's the hard part, is that some people got to go.
Some people got to go.
Some people got to go, man.
Got to go, bro.
And, you know, and that's the thing. Like, you know, when you got cancer, what do you do with it? You cut it out.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes we don't want to cut out things that are out bad for us in our lives.
Right.
And again, that was back to what I was saying, that having those hard conversations. I had to tell my job, my wife, I said, listen, these are things I can no longer tolerate anymore. And I'm sorry if I led you to believe that I was okay with it being this way. Right?
Oh man, that's powerful, because you started with accepting the fact that I've trained you to treat me this way.
And it is always your fault. You can't put nobody else blame. Nobody else is responsible for your happiness other than you. That's the first thing you have to realize. Can't nobody make you feel you do for you whatsoever.
Right.
It starts with you. That's the empowerment that you got to have.
Yeah.
Remember, you are man.
Right.
Period. First and foremost, when you ask me today, who am I? I said, first of all, I'm a man.
Right.
Period.
Right.
What does that mean? That means that I lead, I guide my steps, I choose my destiny, I live in it. This is what the God in me is allowing me to do, just to be a creator.
Yeah. So
that's what it means by, you know, when they say God is in everything. If you know that God's in you first, that means everything that's in your thoughts, hearts, desire is of divine.
Right.
Even the dark with the light. Okay. So I think people don't know how to get at peace with that, because, like, you know, based on your upbringing or what you might see on TV, you might get caught up in dogma and think that you got to be this perfect angel. And don't get me wrong, we still should have some integrity and try to be the best men that we can be. So I'm not trying to sit there and say that, you know, it's okay to be a total asshole, because it's not. But you have to be honest with what you want. And then once you kind of have that hard conversation with yourself first, and again, it's built in authenticity, then you can kind of, you know, figure out who in your team, in your world, in your community can help you to achieve that. Yeah. Attain that. And surround yourself around good people, man. Yep.
Man, I really just want to end the show right now. Like, I don't have any, it don't make sense for me to ask no more questions. I think that
well, you know what?
you summed it up. Like,
so Terrell, I'm saying it's so funny, man, because, like, so I'll just tell you, like, I was diagnosed with sarcoidosis, right?
Oh, is that the same thing that
Bernie Mac had?
Bernie
Mac. So Bernie Mac had that. Now, the thing is that people can live long, long lives with it, right? And had no issues whatsoever.
Yeah.
For me, I was having heart palpitations, okay? And I went to the emergency room twice. I was having a heart attack. And this, you know, I was having these things called SVTs, where my heart would just boom, 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 out of nowhere, right? I felt it like beating on my chest. It scared the hell out of me, right? It's all in December. And I couldn't understand what was happening. So there's a fear that I might have had cardiac sarcoidosis, okay? So sarcoidosis is basically these accumulating granulomas that appear in various areas in your body. Most oftentimes it appears in the lungs, okay? Which is really, really commonplace. But then also it can appear in other organs in the body, kidneys, spleen, liver, brain, the whole nine. Well, when it gets in your heart, that could be fatal.
Mhm.
Like that's what Bernie Mac had, and they don't know how to treat it. There's no cure for it. They just, it's just something you just kind of just monitor and hope that it doesn't grow in your different bodies. So
Right.
when I thought that I had cardiac sarcoidosis, I looked at the diagnosis of that, 2 years. So I want you to think about what you go through thinking that you might only have 2 years to live. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I dealt
yeah.
with that hard, like crying. I just lost my mother last year. And my first thing was, why me? Why me? And my mind was getting crazy. Now, the thing I read about sarcoidosis also is that the stress triggers it,
Mhm.
right? And we did later learn that it was not currently in my heart, but doesn't mean that it can ever be.
Mhm.
So now I can spend my life being worried about stuff, right? I can be worried about this, worried about that. And that doesn't do anything good for us whatsoever, right? It doesn't do
Right.
any good at all because now that's more stress in your mind,
Right.
worrying. And so what I had to look back, and I'm talking about this whole thing about halftime, I had to look at the first 2 quarters of my life. And if I look at, work over the last 8 years, how much of that have I been happy about? How much have I been, upset about?
Right.
Right. Marriage, same thing. Of the day by day, how much of my time spent is of happiness? How much is time spent, in negativity? Children, kids, all that stuff. And that's when I was like, you know what? I gotta cut some shit out.
Right.
Some things will have to stop because I'm not gonna be at halftime now. Think I'm down by 10.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
Third quarter come, I need to get up by 20.
Right.
What does that mean? Right. And the metaphor here in terms of your opponent in this game is being happy, right? Because you only got one life, right? And being happy in every regard you possibly can. And so when I realized that the only enemy I have right now is myself, and I gotta protect my mind. I gotta protect my mind because if anything, you only got one life to live.
Right.
I'd be damned if I sit here and spend this damn thing miserable
Right.
and upset,
Yeah.
disappointed about anything anymore the rest of my life. So when someone comes at me, that's like, kind of negative.
Yeah.
I'm Neo in the Matrix, but I'm like,
Right.
really that real quick. I don't want no drama
Yeah.
in my life whatsoever. And then, and that's hard for some people to understand that because if you train them to be a certain way and think things are a certain way, now you're gonna change the game up on them.
Right.
There it is. Like who can handle that? Who can move with you? Who can't?
Right.
Right.
Who can adapt to these situations? Because
Yeah.
you realize that you have adapted to a lot of their situations, right? But
Man.
nobody is adapting to you.
So
That's the way you feel. You're like, man, I've
Right.
changed and I flipped because I can help you adjust in this situation.
Right.
But then when I look back, if you use the same metaphor over that half of my life and realize what I have trained people
Right.
to believe that I enjoy in
So-
terms of happiness.
So here's that metaphor again, right? That's strategy, right? So
Right.
somebody's playing the zone defense, you got a certain set offense now. And so now they used to you, which
Right.
is why the game is close.
Right.
Well, what has to happen to get up? You got to change it up on them. Say, hey, I
Right.
didn't think that was coming. So now I got Steph Curry coming in half
Right.
court. Trey bomb making it rain. Like, how
Right.
do you defend that?
Right.
And that's how I feel right now. Right now, I'm actually up.
Yeah.
I'm up in a big way. So I'm out here doing triathlons, brothers running 6-8 miles at a time. I'm biking, 20, 30 miles like it's nothing. No, I'm swimming a half a mile.
Yeah.
I'm just enjoying that. I'm actually, working out there on a regular basis. And, I'm traveling and seeing parts of the world that I want to see. And I'm just really living life to its fullest that I possibly can. And I'm just saying, hey, this is what I have to have. I gotta go out of this. I gotta go out of town. I gotta go with the boys in Miami. We just gotta do it.
Right.
I gotta go to Colombia real soon. She don't like that. I'm like, listen, I don't care if you support about it or not.
Right.
I can go to Cartagena. I speak Spanish, so I'm gonna be fine.
Okay. Yeah.
I need to go protect them, but that's what things I gotta go do. I gotta do it. I don't want to leave this world without saying I haven't done that.
Right.
And yeah, we can go to Europe and we can go do our thing too as well. So let's just make that happen.
Right. Yeah. I'm not ignoring you, but if you want me to be here fully for you, then there are things that I honestly need to do for myself, and I'm not being selfish in that way, is what I hear you saying. You're saying that for me to be full for you, I need to let some of these other things go, and I need to create the space.
Yes.
And I need you to allow me to create the space to do that because I was an individual before we got married.
Yep.
And I still need to be that in this marriage as well.
Yeah.
Right. And so
and you can do the same thing too.
Yeah.
Like I get this, and that's the part that I think is good for me is that I don't have no problems being with the kids by myself for extended periods of time. We'll make it happen. We'll make it work.
Right.
And I can do it.
Yeah.
I don't know how other guys are about it, but I got that nurturing, instinct in me.
Yeah.
And my kids respond to me in a very different way than they respond to their mom, but that's just the nature of the beast. I mean, that's just natural. But you gotta do you, man.
Yeah, you absolutely. So would you say, Man, and I swear I can keep going, man. And I know you got somewhere to be. So, want to wrap it up, but I do want to ask, as you're talking through, and it again, back to the middle part of this conversation, when it feels like you're very intentional about your life at this moment, in this season of your life, right?
Right.
And it sounded like you were that way to some degree, in your early manhood and your journey throughout that process as well. In this process, in this season of your life where you found this new Roy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that you've also found a bit of purpose in your life? Or did you always kind of have that?
So I've always had a purpose to
Right.
help the world, help the people,
Okay.
right? I spent a large part of my life being a personal trainer, in which case your sole goal is to help people achieve their goals, right? And sometimes they got to go through hard lessons in order to do so. You need to be that different person for them. Sometimes you got to be the drill sergeant. Sometimes you got to be the counselor.
Right.
Okay, you got to be who you need to be to keep them motivated.
Right.
So I've always been a person that has believed in aspiring and achievement. Again, I think what happened with me was that I kind of got out of that space. I got into the space of being overwhelmed with responsibility. And I shouldn't say overwhelmed, but just feeling like this is what I have to do because this is what you're supposed to do, to be a father, to be a husband, take care of the kids. And you lose sight of yourself. And I lost sight of myself for a good 10 years, stop doing the things that I used to do, which now looking back, there's nothing wrong with that, right? I would not have come to this realization right now had I not done that.
Yeah.
Right. So none of that was a mistake.
Right.
So you also have to realize that every day, every minute, every decision, every instance, every occurrence that ever happened to you, none of it is a mistake.
Yeah.
The question is, what are you going to get from it? What's that dichotomy, the positive in every single thing that you went through, so that you can always say you come from nothing but goodness.
Right.
Right. And let that be what was going to carry you forward. So I don't have any regrets whatsoever. But yeah, this newfound me is now different from the standpoint, like I know now that the game here is about me being happy. And I know that I can be a responsible father. I can be a professional. I can grow, I know that I do and produce good things in this world.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about that anymore. It's like when you're in your 20s, you kind of wondering, can I make it?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I know I can make it, goddammit.
Right.
Okay. And the world knows I can make it.
Yeah.
Okay. So now it's about me making it for myself and whatever that may be.
Right.
And of course, building a legacy for my kids. And not that I plan on giving a whole big old pot of money to chill on, because at the end of the day, I'm gonna spend my damn money.
Right.
Right. That's what I earned. That's what I did for it. Right.
Right.
But I'm gonna show you how to make your own as well. And help them as best I can, because you also have your legacy to carry.
Yeah.
And now it's about what's gonna be in the tombstone when I'm in the ground, because the one thing about losing a parent is that you realize that this life is not forever, and everybody's game is going to end.
Right.
Everybody's game. And I think that many of us don't realize that the game is going to end.
Yeah.
And we don't know when, but it's going to end. And right now, I'm halfway there.
Yeah. No,
I'm halfway there.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, man, that when you think about it, as I go through my own journey, right, and I ebb and flow with it as well, when you think about like not being here, and leaving a legacy, and you think about Tombstone and what's going to be on it. I've come to the conclusion that if I had to decide what was going to be on my tombstone, it's like, I would say, if you want to know who I am, take a look at the people that were in my circle. Yeah. Like look who is left behind me. Look at my kids.
Yep.
Look at my wife.
Yep.
And look at my friends and the people and family that, I've decided to have in my circle. And if you see or hear them talk about me, and if I've done my job, then I've changed something about them, right?
Yeah.
Or made them think differently, right? In that way. And that's part of like where I want to live, like where I want the legacy kind of that I want to leave. So with that, I know you got to go. So you said a lot, but I want to give you the opportunity. If there's anything that you would like to leave for the fathers that are listening, right? What is the one thing that you would leave for them to be able to move forward and make a change or do something different, or anything for that matter that you would like for them to know, that so that they can make, get to that next step in their life?
If you want your children to have the best life, you got to show them how you are having your best life, because children will always learn by what you do,
right,
and what they see you doing,
right,
not anything about what you tell them whatsoever.
Right.
You can tell them all you want, but they're going to see what you do more importantly. So If you want them to be healthy, they got to see you being healthy. If you want them to have fun, they have to see you having fun. Because if they see you upset, they see you in turmoil, they see you stressed, they're going to learn to do that just as well.
Yeah.
So that was kind of huge for me because I started realizing that my kids started taking on my stressful ways.
Yeah.
And then that's also I knew I had to kind of change the game up real quick because I don't want that for them, you
Right.
know, especially as children, because they will try to emulate everything that you do,
Right.
you know, even in their young years. And so that's the thing I think, again,
Yeah.
I love them. And if I want them to love themselves like that, they got to see me loving me.
Well,
it goes back to that, man.
Well, people, we've had a wonderful session with Mr. Roy Walker, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming through, bro.
Oh, man, I
appreciate
had a blast,
it, man.
man.
We're gonna have to do this again. We're gonna have to get like a session 2 or 3, man.
You know what?
Have you come through for a panel.
Well, when I get my manuscript going, you know, I'd love to come back.
Yeah.
Because I'm excited about what's to come with this whole thing about halftime. Because
Yeah.
there's some strategies that I realized that that we don't know we're playing, but we're all playing this game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Some
Yeah.
of us just know we're losing.
That is a fact. Most of us are. So I
Right.
appreciate you for coming through, bro.
All right, bro. Thanks, man. I
Yep,
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Now, if that doesn't inspire you to get back to you, then you need to play this thing back because there were definitely some gems in that conversation. And if that doesn't work, head on over to our new website at awesomeblackdads.com. We have more content that is sure to inspire. And as always, we appreciate you joining us. But before you go, I'd like to encourage you to do one thing that allows you to get back to you. Just one. Because at the end of the day, it's about becoming a better you. Be awesome.